Good evening, or afternoon, or morning, depending on where you are in the world. We are excited to have you join us. This session is for you, the key support liaisons, and we want it to be engaging and interactive. This is an opportunity for you to engage with our experts and get your questions answered about emergency preparedness and crisis management. My name is Letitia Crea, and I work at Headquarters Air Force in the Airmen and Family Care Division, and I'll be your MC for today's event. Our theme for today is Get Ready, Achieving Family Readiness Through Emergency Preparedness and Crisis Management. As natural disasters are seeming to happen more frequently, even right now, as we sit in this room, there are some people who are still dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Beryl and wildfires in the western states. And then there are the man made crises that are happening all across the globe. Our goal today is to equip you with information and resources that will assist you and the airmen, guardians, and families you serve to stay prepared and be ready for the unexpected. I'm excited because today we've assembled experts from several different areas of emergency response and crisis management to be with us and provide tools from across the spectrum of this topic. But before we get to our experts, we have remarks from an honored guest, the spouse of General David Alvin, Chief of Staff of the Air Force, Mrs. Gina Alvin. Okay. While we wait to get Mrs. Alvin on the line for everyone, Mr. Larry, would you please do us the honor of giving a welcome and opening remarks for our guests?
I will be glad to do that now, but let me be very, very clear. I'm not going to pretend like I have the talents or the status of a Mrs. Alvin. Nonetheless, I'm always honored to step in, and I'm thrilled to be here with you. And if Mrs. Alvin, if you can hear me, if you can come online, anytime that you think your system is working, please do, ma'am. But we're always honored to hear you and have you with us. For me, I tell you what a great, great opportunity. And I highlight that word opportunity because it gives us a chance for each of us, no matter where we are. We can be brand new to this role or haven't been in these types of roles across taking care of military and family readiness and taking care of the readiness and resilience of our families for many, many years, or it could have been a few days. Each of us still have room to grow in terms of what Lieutenant Colonel Creel just zeroed in on, the emergency aspect of what we do, the emergencies that come up on us when none of us think they may be feasible or maybe in the workings, but they pop up. So how do we help ourselves to gear up to cope with those type of contingencies? Is an element that we're walking through today, that element of preparedness, that element of readiness, that element of knowing that things could happen quickly and get out of hand very, very rapidly if we, especially if we have failed to plan, at least to walk through where we are, what are the types of emergencies that are likely to surface weather-wise, what is likely to happen if I'm on a long trip in my vehicle, what is likely to happen with my children, what are those things that could happen, maybe not likely, but could happen that I want to be ready if they do, or at least have some indication of the resources available to me, of that lifeline that I can have an outreach and ask someone for help. Because I can tell you from what I've seen in my days in this wonderful, wonderful Air Force of ours, both in military uniform and now in civilian attire, I'm still just another member of our Air Force, fighting hard every day to be the best that we can to provide the service and support we need to help our military members, that's our airmen and our guardians, be as strong as they can be and have a plan. A plan should an emergency strike, or at least a plan, the start of one with a bit of know how so you won't be caught standing there just at what do I do now? You remember that old saying? You repair the roof while the sun is shining. That
Yep.
means you are thinking ahead. You're looking around corners. I always like to say the train is coming. You may not hear it. Be very attentive. If you get an opportunity to put your ear to the track, it's coming. It's just a matter of when it's going to show at your destination. So with that, I tell you, from our senior leaders, um, starting with the Secretary of the Air Force across this great force of ours with our chiefs of staff and all the way through our senior enlisted leaders and our vice chiefs, over to Lieutenant General Miller, our A1, there's no doubt for each of those leaders, they continue to reflect on how do we maintain our status as a world greatest fighting force, knowing that people first is an imperative. And for many of us, it's the number one imperative because as we know, with all the hardware in the world, if you don't have the people that are able to operate it in some form or fashion, it's probably to little or no avail. So it brings us back to the fundamental point where we are today. And I tell you, I'm really grateful for Lieutenant Colonel Creer, for Ms. Carla Diamond, for Lieutenant Colonel Roberts, for all of our teammates, Mr. Hudson, and all the rest on the line from the Air Force Personnel Center, and all the other members who are on the panel who's going to share thoughts with this small point of thought in mind, and that is when they are sharing that each of us, and if we're a bit fortunate, all of us, we will be able to grasp some key straws, some lines of effort, some points that will make us stronger, something that you can put in your computer devices, something that you can have in mind and something that you can lock on to. So for me, for the whole team who pulled this together, on behalf of Mrs. Arvin, I sure hope that she'll get a chance to come online during this session. And I'm sure I'm going to say this for Lieutenant Colonel Creer, anytime, any place, ma'am, your thoughts be very welcome. So from my chair to each of you who are in attendance today, for each of you who raise your hand to step up and be a key support liaison, to each of you who have been providing support, even without that title, for each of us and for each of you who we continuously come together knowing that it's a matter of how we share, how we engage, how do we connect, and how do we grow to continuously advance where we are to be the best that we can be and be in some form of readiness when an emergency strikes. And the thought is have a plan and be prepared. And this session today is all about those 2 points. So Lieutenant Colonel Creer, I would say on behalf of Ms. Arvin, I'm going to turn this back to you. And again, ma'am, if you get a chance to come on at any time, we are honored to have you. Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel.
Well, this is Gina. I am actually finally on. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I apologize, Lieutenant Colonel. I'll pop in real fast. I do apologize. I needed my KSLs to be helping me out. I can't find my laptop literally in my house because I'm sharing it with 2 teenagers, so I don't know where my laptop is. Couldn't get my phone unmuted because, whatever. And so I needed all of you, all your good positive vibes got me finally on, so I appreciate that. I just want to also say, hi, thank you all for joining us today. And really, this program is coming from the Pentagon and the office people, the people that work for Mr. Larry and Miss Diamond and all the other people they have lined up to be on the program today. And I just really want to thank them. They've worked really, really hard. The plan of slightly tweaking the program and redoing the curriculum a little bit, re-energizing it a tad bit is what I think you've all been waiting for since the name change and all of that. And they're working really hard every day on this. And so I really want to thank them. And this is their program. I'm so excited for them to get it and run with it and to share it with all of us. So like he mentioned, like Mr. Larry mentioned, that, as this program goes on, I'd like you to also keep in keep thinking, what is a KSL? What is the key support liaison there for? We're really going to try to focus on defining your role. I think a lot of you already know what it is, but at the same point, sometimes you get pulled into some places that it's not your role to do. And we want you to be able just to focus on what the program really is designed for. And especially they brought up today, they're looking at the crisis, emergency, conflict kind of preparedness. And this is a lot of stuff we're just working for in our command team schools and all of that, wherever we're at. We're kind of working on making sure that we're all prepared for all the things that might come our way, no matter what. So I just wanted to say thank you. I apologize. Dave wanted to be here, but he wasn't home in time. And we were going to have a little quick hello, but just wanted to let you know they're doing such a great job. We're really excited, and we're going to have more of these, and it's going to be great. And so thank you so much for the team and all that you've done. And I'm excited when we do get to go out to the bases. I certainly hope I get to sit down with more of you. We've gotten to sit down with some of you as we've traveled a little bit with the KSLs, and I'm excited to do that more. And please bring back your feedback. That's what we need, your feedback, so we can continue to improve and just get a better program. So thank you so much. I will turn it back over, and I'm going to unmute, unvideo, and just be a fly on the wall. So thank you all so much. Okay, take care.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Alvin, for your remarks. And thank you, Mr. Larry, for that welcome as well.
Yes.
Okay, it is time to get into the meat and potatoes. The Air Force Personnel Center at afpc.af.mil is the treasure trove for all the information about tonight's event and all things Key Support Liaison related. The actual link has been shared in the chat. And for those on the phone, it's easy to find by simply Googling AFPC Commander's Key Support Program. Our agenda for today begins with our subject matter expert panel, and our panelists will provide a brief overview of their area of expertise. Then we will kick it off with a couple of questions that were sent in ahead of time, followed by an open question and answer period where you'll get the opportunity to engage with the panel and ask questions. After questions and answers, we'll have a brief 10-minute break and then pick back up with closing remarks from our panelists and final remarks. Our panel today features experts from organizations that operate in emergency preparedness and crisis management. You can find their bios by clicking the link that's in the chat or by going to the treasure trove at AFPC's Commander's Key Support Program website that I mentioned earlier. Before we jump into the questions, though, we're going to do a round of introduction of our panelists. I ask all of the panelists to come on camera, and in 3 minutes or less, please introduce yourselves and tell us a little about your current role as it relates to emergency preparedness and crisis management. Chief Jameson, if you could please start us off.
Yeah, I certainly will. So how can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear, sir.
All right, perfect. Hey, so first, this is a fantastic opportunity. So just echoing what Ms. Alvin and Mr. Larry just mentioned, just to be able to engage with the key support liaisons and, and everything that you do out there. First, from me, thank you. So I'm Chief Master Sergeant Sean Jameson. I am the Career Field Manager for Emergency Management for the Department of the Air Force. We have 2,100 total first emergency managers across the entire spectrum of, what we do, conflict, or even when it comes to natural or man-made disasters. So out of that, we have probably an installation of emergency management posted on nearly every installation in the Air Force. That is a big job and a lot of responsibility, but, a lot of it is about, making sure that we keep our community safe. And we also, educate, through preparedness activities. And then just events like this, making sure that we have everyone involved because truly like disasters as they begin and end locally. This is a whole of base, whole of government effort to be able to recover from those and to be able to return to the fight quickly. So prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery, that is what we do. But we can't do it without everybody that's on this call and really everyone else, then family members as well, to be able to dig in to make sure that they have everything is squared away and understand at least, how to be able to prepare themselves. And that could be as small as just having a disaster kit. So that's a couple of things about that, who I am. I'm actually right now at the Pentagon at the Deputy Chief of Staff for Logistics, Engineering, and Force Protection in A4, and then A4C, the Director of Civil Engineers. So shout out to the 7% that mentioned that Civil Engineer Squadron was a part of the preparedness family. Thank you for that. But yeah, we have a role to play in this. But again, that role is only as strong as the team that we have to be able to support it. So happy to be here, happy to answer any questions, when it comes down to that portion of it. And another, just so one thing, when we're talking about like all over the world, the key support liaisons and the network that we have here, it is amazing. So I want to again echo what they just mentioned in the opening comments and say thank you. I know that there's some resources that were in the slide deck. So if you don't already have it, be ready. That app, that's on Androids and iPhones. If you go to the App Store and download that, you will also have access to an awful lot of information. Everything from being able to classify disasters, being able to have even a checklist in there, resources for phone numbers, including a lot of the agencies that are on today. So be ready. Go check out that app. And then, download that from the App Store. I see some of the questions over there. It's called Be Ready, BEREADY. Download that and you'll get a lot of information, about not only installation offices of emergency management, but also checklist, support activities, phone numbers. There's a lot of data in there for you. So, yep, happy to be here and answer any questions, and looking forward to the conversations this evening. Over.
Thank you, Chief. Chaplain Lieutenant Colonel Worf.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be with you. Chaplain Dan Worf here. I'm actually up here in the Pentagon. I actually am filling a new role, working for the Chief of Chaplains, Chaplain Kitchens. I'm the Spiritual Fitness Manager and cover strategic partnerships. And so what is that? I get that question a lot. So my job is really to champion what it means to be spiritually fit across the spectrum of resilience. So as we think about integrated resiliency, as you think about how do I foster and forge those connections across the spectrum of resilience, so my family, my friends, our peers, our social networks, all the support agencies, the Chaplain Corps is kind of the connective tissue that we roll in a lot of those different lanes. And so my role here specifically is to ensure you're ready from a spiritual perspective. But what does that mean? Well, it could be from a religious or a non-religious perspective. When we talk about holistic wellness, that's our big focus. And mainly we start thinking and talking more about purpose, beliefs, and values. Because when crisis hits, and I love what Mr. Larry talked about earlier, you have to be prepared because the train is coming. And a lot of times in crises, that's not the time to anchor your beliefs or values. Those things that anchor you in the crisis and a storm. And so as a Chaplain Corps, we're here to fortify your readiness, to support you, educate you, equip you, and also connect you. So develop social networks across the organizations that you're tied into, support the families as well. And so our crucial role is to make that happen on a day in and day out a level for you and your teams. Most people know us as chaplains. Some call us religious support teams. You should have heard both of that, hopefully by now. A religious support team is a chaplain and a religious affairs airman. That's our enlisted counterpart. And they do a lot of wonderful work as well. And so we are kind of working together to kind of champion and fortify your readiness, to equip you on that full spectrum of resilience. And I look forward to your questions, the panel discussions, to talk a little bit more about what we're doing. We've released some brand new products that are going to be out on the Air Force Resiliency website, focused on helping educate commanders, senior leaders on how and what the role is of the Chaplain Corps. How do we prepare airmen before the fight, in the fight, after the fight, and after your time in uniform? And that's a key component, right? What we do is we add value, hopefully to help strengthen you, to fortify you and get you ready, but also to return you when you ultimately hang up this uniform. healthier than you came in. And that's our goal. And so it's an honor to be with you. Look forward to engaging with you and being on this panel. And thank you so much for the invitation to be with you all today.
Thank you, Chaplain Wharf. Mr. Nate Hudson.
Good day, all. My name is Nate Hudson. I appreciate this opportunity to talk with you because I know that key support liaisons are a key part of our efforts in the field, especially when we do emergency family assistance operations. Many of you have volunteered to be part of our key staff when we activate our emergency family assistance centers, providing that support to our military communities and those that are affected by what we call an all hazard event that may have occurred that may alter their life at that time due to that, be it a severe weather event or another emergency of some type, natural man-made disaster. So I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity to have a conversation with you today. My primary job, I am the Crisis Support Program Manager. I work up at Air Force Personnel Center, and I'm in the Airmen and Family Care Directorate. I work in Airmen and Family Readiness Operations. And one of the things that's pretty critical to my job is that we have about, last I counted, we got about 881 case managers throughout the Department of the Air Force that actually those case managers are there for emergency family assistance. And one of our responsibilities is when the military communities are affected by an emergency, contingency, evacuation, disaster, we're actually assigning those case managers to support their community, to do that outreach, to make sure that you're getting the services and support that you need in the recovery process. So we're aiding the installations, emergency management to support recovery after a significant event that may have altered your life. And also my primary responsibility is the training aspect, making sure that that staff is trained and have the ability to provide you that assistance. And we work with some of the local, state, the installation level agencies, helping agencies to make sure that we have those conversations to say, okay, what event has occurred and how are we going to make sure that the families and service members get that resources that they need to make our service members mission ready and make our families resilient to recover from that event. Within Airmen and Family Operations, we have case managers and we have program managers for about 17 quality of life programs. And we can talk with them to make sure, be it personal financial readiness, or be it if we need support, like let's say military family life counselor, we can talk with those program managers at this level to make sure that they reach out to at the local level to make sure that those individuals can provide you support when needed. So one of the things that we also do is operational oversight. When that Emergency Family Assistance Center is activated, we're in contact with those key staff, with the Military and Family Readiness Center staff to make sure what they need to provide you a level of service is provided to them so they can get you what you need. And also, one of the responsibilities, if you heard of the Air Force Personnel Assessment and Accountability system, the AFPAS system, we manage the needs assessment portion. I know Ms. Goodman here is going to talk on AFPAS itself for the accountability side, but we manage that module within that system itself. So when you do an AFPAS event within their needs assessment, an event occurs, you're reaching out for some level of support or urgent need, no matter what it may be, financial assistance, lodging, temp or permanent lodging, onward travel, transportation, whatever the need is, it's about 19 needs categories. We receive that information in our office. And what we do is we take that information and then we triage it. We make sure that the services that can address and resolve that issue is accomplished, and we gather that information. We get it to the case managers. We work with those agencies that can provide you that level of support, and we make sure that occurs. So one of the things that's just some of the things that we do under crisis support. One of the the big picture to it is that we provide you support before, during, and after. Before education and training, we're making sure the centers are getting the resources to provide you that level of emergency or crisis preparation, preparedness training. And we also, during the event itself, getting those resources that you need to resolve your situations and recover from that incident. And then post-event, aiding the base emergency installation, emergency management to make sure you're able to recover. Could be short-term recovery or long-term recovery. So that's all I have for you, and I look forward to talking to you during this session.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Mrs. Sonia Goodman.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ms. Sonia Goodman, and I'm with the Air Force Personnel Center here at Randolph Air Force Base, and I work with the Fourth Generations Branch, Fourth Generations Readiness Branch, under the direction and supervision of Mr. Edsel Walker. My main purpose, I'm so glad to be here with you guys today, is I am one of the program managers for the Air Force Personnel Accountability and Assessment System. And in this, it's our job to do the accountability for all airmen and guardians and their family members during a natural or man-made disaster. The purpose of this program is after the event mainly, because after the event, we need to make sure that our airmen, guardians, and family members are accounted for. We work closely with the MAGCOMs, the IPRs, and the Corps, because as I recently told you, there's two of us for the whole entire Air Force that manage this program for the total Air Force, which is Ms. Yolanda Phelps and myself. So we depend on our MAGCOMs, our IPRs, and our Corps to help us with our accountability efforts during an event. We exercise with DOD and OSD half A1 and A3 twice a year to make sure that everything is working as accordingly. We encourage units to exercise all throughout the year to make sure that everything is working properly with the system. And we also have a mobile app that you can download, and it's AFPAAS. You just download the app and you can do the accountability for your cells and your family members right on your phone or mobile device or laptop. We try to make it a little easier for you. This year, we've integrated with the alert system, which is an Army system, sort of like ad hoc. And its system is a two-way messaging system. We send out messages to you if you are in an event, to notify you that you are an event and that you need to be accounted for, you and your family members, if you have family members. And if you answer responding with one of the 6 answers, that is directly given back to us in the system, and you won't have to go in the system yourself. And you should be able to do this from your phone mobile app, from your mobile app, from your cell phone or your tablet. We work closely with Mr. Hudson and Military Family Readiness because they do handle the needs assessment side of this. We all work closely when there is evacuations that are being ordered because we want to know where you are, where the families are. We have a little area within the YAFPAS system that's called displaced location. Once you put in your displaced location, the assessment form from Mr. Hudson's side will pop up and let them know if you're in need of anything while you are being evacuated or relocated. But the most important thing about being displaced or in a displaced location is to know where you are. So if you're traveling, we always ask members not to put in their displaced location until they actually reach their destination, because we don't want something to happen to you and you program where you're going to be, like at your mother's house, and something happens. If you're driving and something happens before you get there. So we always encourage members and family members to go in once you have arrived at your location. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys today. Can't imagine the type of questions you guys will have for us, and we're ready. And thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you, Ms. Goodman. And our final panelist, Mr. Brian Angel.
Hey, good day, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on what time zone you're on. I saw some folks from around the world to join us. So again, thank you for allowing us to be a part of this panel and to be here with you. I'm Brian Angel. I'm the branch chief for casualty operations. I also work in the same directorate as Mr. Hudson, the Military and Family Readiness Directorate in the Casualty Matters Division. Been doing this job for about 6 years. I was prior active duty Air Force, also a current reservist. And basically what we talked about real quick on casualty matters and a couple of key documents that we have an annual requirement for our airmen and guardians and Space Force are included on the Department of Air Force to make sure that they're updating their information on the virtual record of emergency data, also known as the VRED, or the DD Form 93. And then also we have the Service Members Group Life Insurance SGLI, which is also in the VA run program called SOS, SGLI Online Enrollment System. That work through and what we do for casualties. Now, those are two key documents that I'll kind of just touch on real quickly, but also knowing that for casualty matters, most time folks usually think that it's a deceased member. On average, we have about 200 cases per year, but we also deal with all the wounded, ill, and injured members as well. And we have several programs that also support our wounded, ill, and injured airmen and guardians as they go through their casualty matters. First on the VRED, the record of emergency data, not only do you designate who to contact should a member become a casualty, but they're also designating members who are going to be beneficiaries, whether it's family members or loved ones, or it could be a wingman buddy that they met in the dorms in that basic training. So we've seen all gamuts from that. For the record of emergency data. On that, they're going to designate who's getting the death gratuity, which is $100,000, and that can be divided several ways in percentages and dollars. Also, the arrears of pay, which is a member's unpaid pay and allowance, leave, or any kind of bonus that they may not received. And also on this form, members are designating something that's called under the mortuary umbrella, the person authorized disposition of remains, the PAD, and that person actually works with mortuary affairs and can say how the member, whether they're going to be cremated, casket, funeral honors, memorial service, that kind of thing. So that's all designated on the VRED form. And dealing with our SGLI, the SOS online enrollment system, that came out in 2017 by the VA. The underwriter is Prudential that deals with that life insurance program. Just in March of last year, across the total Air Force, they increased the maximum allowed amount for SGLI is now $500,000. With a minimum of $50,000. Under that SGLI program, we also have the Family Service Members Group Life Insurance, FSGLI. For spouses, there's also an additional premium that costs to get the FSGLI for a spouse. It's not automatic, but that goes up to $100,000 for coverage on a spouse. And then automatic enrollment for dependent children, minors, that's $10,000 per child. That's also covered on the SGLI program. Now, something that came out that many folks don't know is also an additional $1 per month of the SGLI premium covers TSGLI, Traumatic Service Members Group Life Insurance, and that gets into the wounded, ill, injured members. So if they have an extended external trauma, traumatic brain injury, loss of limbs, that kind of thing, they're injured, as long as they have a minimum SGLI coverage, they also have the ability to make a claim towards TSGLI for that up to $100,000 per claim from that external event. And there's a lot of information on the VA site and also Military One Source where members can fill out that form for the TSGLI claims as well, separate from SGLI and TSGLI, or sorry, SGLI and FSGLI. Now, reasons why we bring this up to you in this forum, and just again appreciate your volunteering to work with this, is just knowing for casualty matters, we need to make casualty reporting within 4 hours. We have to have notification in person to our deceased members, missing or dust sworn, DSAS whereabouts unknown, knock on the door globally to those members that are listed on the VRED, on the record emergency data. And also we have to know who we're talking to for benefits and entitlements. At every installation, you have a casualty representative, your car. That's up to 80 plus cars that are worldwide. They are full-time GS civilian, and they also work through doing the benefits and entitlements and addressing whatever next of kin or family members are in their area of that part of the world. This is a close active duty base is assigned to those members and our members that are there. Casualty representatives, cars, again, GS-11s, appropriated fund civilians, and they're full-time. This is their primary job, to do casualty assistance for your locations and at your bases. Now, just quick, without that annual update to those documents, the biggest impact to us really gets into our mission of reporting notification. Essentially detrimental if you say you didn't update the VRED, they didn't do the annual update, then it's going to delay making that notification. So if there's an erroneous address, if there's an erroneous phone number, we've sent notification teams to 5 different addresses just to make notifications to a single individual on a red listed, or family members have a different dynamic. So the parents are no longer married and they didn't update a phone number, update an address, we can't find them. So that takes additional time to make those notifications. Additionally, on the SGLI and VRED both, if they're not updating who those designated by name beneficiaries are, then there could be erroneous payouts to those members as well. So we look forward to ensuring that the members are doing that on an annual requirement to recertify and or ensure their elections are current and up to date, so that we're making the right payments out to all of the family members or beneficiaries by name as we take this out. So many times you'll see members have a living will or will, but it goes contradictory to whether it's SOS or the VRED and the systems that we have. Those are the system of records, and that is the official forms, whether it's a DD form or an Air Force form, that we as a service have to execute those entitlements to those by name members. And it's hard to ask that member what their intentions were once they've passed, if they intended to say maybe leave a death gratuity to a parent, but then they wanted to make sure their SGLI went to their spouse and kids. Or vice versa. They decided to give it to the parents and the spouse says, no, I should have got the SGLI, that type of thing. So we had those types of challenges with divorce, marriages, births, and that thing. If the members aren't updating that annually, then we have that negative impact. I went well over my 3 minutes. I apologize for that, but I appreciate, again, just the ability that we'll have. We'll talk through and answer the questions as we get through the panel. I did go last, so I yield the rest of my time back to the Lieutenant Colonel.
Thank you, Mr. Angel, and we forgive you for going over your time because that was a lot of information, but it was a lot of good information that's much needed for all of us on the call. So I appreciate all of the panelists for your intros and taking the time to share your expertise with us. And now we're going to jump into questions. I already see some questions coming into the chat. I have a couple of pre-sent in questions, and then we will get to the chat. The first question is for Chaplain Worf. Chaplain, can you clarify from a lens of integrated resilience and spiritual fitness, what types of resources are available for military members and their families on a daily basis that can aid in emergency preparedness?
Awesome. Thanks for the question. Great to be with you. So as I think about that, I'm thinking about community, right? So a couple of things that come to my mind when we think about integrated resiliency is this idea of community, connection, and care. So those are kind of 3 key concepts that I wanted to get kind of as KSLs for you guys to start thinking about, because you guys are really a pulse of the force asset that's at the peer level, and you're going to have a sense of what's going on. It's similar to what our embedded RSTs do in unit ministry, right? So this idea of what are the kinds of assets that we need to have at all different levels within the organization. And one of the things that I think is so important with the KSL role is that you're at the grassroots level. You're listening, you're a pulse of the force, you're getting to understand what are the challenges that our families are facing, what our members are dealing with. And it's important for you to know that, because as you pivot to that support role, so thinking about what are the support agencies that you have. So obviously you have the Chaplain Corps. Thanks for allowing me to go first. It's great to be here, but thinking about your Chaplain Corps team, most chaplain staffs have an embedded religious support team assigned specifically, usually to the squadron or group level. That's a key support network that you have at that local level, but also you can go directly to the wing chaplain or the wing chapel staff specifically. Then you also have Airman and Family Readiness, right? So when you think about integrated resiliency, a lot of what we're thinking about up here at Air Staff is this idea that we do things better together, right? So when you think about how do we work across the different domains of comprehensive airman fitness or total force fitness, right? The mental, physical, social, spiritual lanes. I want you to begin to think as a KSL from your own stories, right? Perhaps you've had an experience where you've leaned on one of those support agencies to help get you through a difficult time. whether that's an MFLAC, through some counseling that you can get there. You can get confidential or absolute confidential counseling with a chaplain corps member. You can do spiritual or leadership type triage counseling with a religious affairs airman. Obviously, you have our SG partners in the integrated ecosystem, right? So you have mental health, social workers, you have CDC, child and family support liaisons. I mean, there's a rich, robust network of support agencies that are at the wing and delta level that are there, full of really phenomenal people who are ready to support you. But one of the things I would encourage you to think about is, what is your responsibility for taking on this role, right? Because it's a trusted role within the unit, especially for your commander. And so you have an opportunity to be a champion of light and really to embody these three things that I talked about earlier, to embody community, right? Connection and care, and do that through connections, right? So make connections. You should go and be involved in your DAFCAT cab. You should understand what are the different support agencies that are the Air Force is investing into, not only members care, but also family members care. So, right, child care, all of those different avenues of support that are available. A lot of times the Chaplain Corps will partner with nonprofits, specifically within a crisis. I've seen that happen a lot. And so you can find avenues of support, not just within the installation, but also outside. And there's great opportunities to do that as well. So I think that kind of captures a lot of what I wanted to share with you guys today. But just think about these three things. You as a KSL kind of really embody community, connection, and really care. And you're a pulse of the force for the commander, and ensuring that, you know what, at the grassroots level, you can got to get a sense of what are the challenges. It's that EFMP. I mean, I hear a lot of that, right? So you might have to help overcome some of those challenges, but also in a crisis. How do you make those connections? Make sure people in your unit, spouses, are prepared. They have a go bag. I mean, there's so much that we could talk about. And you can see we're pretty excited about it. And I can tell you that we're investing, and Mrs. Alvin and General Alvin are investing in all the pre-command spouse courses, Mr. Carl as well. We've been developing and working on tabletop exercises with all of the new inbound wing group commanders and their spouses, getting them thinking about great power competition, getting them thinking about what's a ever kind of be ready posture look like, and that's national, could be near peer issues, or it could be natural disaster issues. And we're getting our spouses, our commanders, thinking about these things early and often, so that they're prepared and ready to receive you as one of their teammates. So we're excited to be on the call and love to answer any questions, but thanks for the question, and we're here to talk some more. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaplain, for emphasizing us the importance of community, connection, and care, and where KSLs can fit into that, as well as talking about the integrated network of support agencies that are at our wing and Delta level. So thank you so much for that. Our next question, and I am going to take a question out of the chat after this one. Our next question is for Ms. Goodman. Ms. Goodman, can you provide insights into how to best utilize AFPAS if the military member is deployed or TDY and the family at home is affected by a natural disaster?
Okay, so the best way to utilize AFPAS if the family member is deployed is what I would say right now. You would need to do this. The sponsor would need to do the preparation prior. Say, for instance, when they do the power of attorney and they do their DEERS eligibility and updates, at that time, they also need to be giving their spouses their AFPAS information. Because just like DEERS and military ID card, it is the sponsor's responsibility. We have went back and forth, and we're still working with OSD and other agencies because we know that dependents, especially spouses, will like to have their own login. But right now, at this time, it is not. It is The login has to be tied to the sponsor's DOD number. Now, excuse me, a trick to this is what one of my key sponsors at Patrick Space Force told me what she did when her husband left. She had his login, but when he deployed, she changed the password. She still used his login, but she changed the password to something that she could remember, because I know I was a military spouse for 26 years. We usually take care of home. The spouses usually take care of home. So we do know that this is usually what we do. But so what she did, she changed this to something that she could remember, because she knew the email and everything and link that he had it sent to. So she changed it herself. But what I would say for every sponsor that's online right now, when you know that you're going to be deployed, when you do your power of attorney and when you do your DEERS updates, make sure you leave your spouse the AFPAS information, which is your DOD ID number, and whatever password you've created, so that they can get in and make sure that the accountability continues when you're deployed and we cannot locate you. So, and then the only other thing is that little trick that one spouse told me that she does at Patrick Space Force.
Thank you, Ms. Goodman. And I actually think you answered the question that we had in the chat. It was about whether or not dependents have their own login or if they're able to go in. So you actually already answered that for us. I see Mr. Hudson wanted to add something to that. Go ahead, Mr. Hudson.
Yes, ma'am. Just a caveat. This is Nate Hudson. Just a caveat on what Ms. Goodman was saying. If there's a significant event that has occurred and you're in dire straits, or you have families that are in dire straits, they can contact Military and Family Readiness Center, and we can support getting them the help that they need to resolve that situation. And we can also print out we had case managers actually fill out the needs assessment for families, and we establish contact with the service member. And I work with Ms. Goodman and some of the MAGCOMs to make sure that we're talking to the sponsor or that service member to make sure they are alert of the situation. Doing the outreach to service members, if we don't have a contact, we are making establishing contact or outreach with the commanding officer representative, the corps, or even first sergeants or commanders to make sure that that service member, if they're at a unaccompanied tour or something like that, that they get the information that they need to show, because we may have unaccompanied family members that are in the region, and the service member may be at a overseas location at a remote tour. So the biggest, when we're looking at EFA support or emergency family assistance support, is making sure that you get that need or get that situation resolved as soon as possible. We have some criteria for responding if a need is generated, and we're adhering to that. We're trying to make sure we get established contact within 24 to 48 hours, and then making sure at least we have in that contact, seeing what your situation it is, and then following up to make sure you get the services that can resolve your situation. So if a EFA or Emergency Family Assistance Center is activated, and that's activated by a commander, or an AFPAS event has occurred, and Ms. Goodman may talk to that, could be at the Air Force Crisis Action Team recommendation, or MAGCOM, or a commander. If an AFPAS event is activated or needs assessment is activated, then we're making sure that we're getting information on the affected population. We get Ms. Goodman provide us a geographical area of interest of just the population that's in the affected area. We're reaching out. I know I made contact with her. We had an evacuation where we had identified a service member that was in the region on TDY, and her office or our office is reaching out, making sure to establish contact. And it's the same thing with family members. All the time, we may not have a needs assessment event that may have occurred due to that event. It could be just an accountability only exercise. So what we're doing is making sure that the center is communicating the capability that we have to support, what services being offered to provide support. They're on the social media platforms telling you what's available. If Air Force Aid Society is providing emergency financial assistance grants that's related to that situation, if FEMA is providing grants or Red Cross, that information is being shared on some of the media platform, on Facebook pages. They're alerting the community. We have what we call information access points that we're putting that data out there for family members. So one of the things, and we really appreciate the KSLs because you're that liaison to the community for us. And what we're doing is getting that information to all of the service providers, all of those volunteers, everyone that's part of our mission partners to get that information out to the military communities. And that's if an event is occurred, or AFPAS event, or needs assessment event, or if it's not it is or not an emergency family assistance center activation. So the short to that is, please reach out to our Military and Family Readiness Center. If you can't get into the system to create a needs assessment event, we will even fill one out for you to make sure it's accomplished, and we establish contact with those in the need, because definitely your leadership want to have situational awareness of what trend data, what are the needs of their community. So we're making sure we're tracking that and getting the information that's needed.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson and Ms. Goodman. And Ms. Goodman, I'm going to go, I see your hand up, but I'm going to go to the chat and grab a question from our audience. And I actually think this question is for you, so you may get to make your point. Do we have a question in the chat, Colonel Roberts?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Goodman mentioned the member needs to pass on the information before deployment, or TDY. How do you manage this with a short notice deployment when you don't have the time to get the power of attorney?
Okay, when I was mentioning the power of attorney isn't needed for AFPAS. The sponsor just needs to give you his or her username and password. Now, if you can't get in and you don't have it, please know that this is our passion. You are not left alone, and you're not left unaccounted for, because it is our responsibility, mine and Ms. Phelps, to make sure that Mr. Walker be able to report to our commanding general who is accounted for, who's not accounted for in an event. So we won't stop until everyone is accounted for. Even if your spouse is deployed and you for some reason cannot get in the system, we're working with the MAGCOMs, we're working with the IPRs, and we're working with the unit cores. And that is the main person right there, that unit core, which is the commanding officer representative, that commander has appointed for everyone that's in his unit to be responsible and account for every member that's in his unit. We're going to track down, locate, and find you or your spouse. If your spouse is deployed, we will find you. If you're in the system, we're going to look for you. And if we cannot locate you and we have your resident, we do work with the local authorities to send out wellness checks. So do not feel like you will not be able to be accounted for, or that you're going to be a hurricane come through and you're just we're not going to be able to we're going to continue to look for you, because if you're in AFPAS and you're in that geographical area of interest, we're going to look for you. And it's not just based on a base. If there is if HAF has directed an event, it's usually by wherever the disaster is. It can be, we can use zip codes, we can use counties, we can use states, we even use countries. So we will continue to look for you, and we will continue to look for each and every family member, even if you're not able to get into the system. But you do not need a power of attorney to get into AFPAS. All you need is your sponsor's username and password. And if you know his DOD ID number, that's half the battle right there. You just need the password. So, but if you cannot, we're going to look for you. As long as you're in the system and we know you in that area, we're going to continue until we locate you and find out whether or not you are okay.
Can you repeat the question?
I apologize. I apologize. Just mentioned that we had 2 more questions on AFPAS in the chat.
All right, thank you. So the first one was, is an AFPAS event only activated when the actual base is affected, or does it include the areas around the base?
Ma'am, it can include the areas around the base. We use zip codes, we use counties, we use the whole state. And it could be just the base. It depends on at that time what the installation commander or the MAGCOM or HAF has required us to use. But normally, if HAF has a requirement for us to do an event, it is usually on the geographical area, which includes the zip codes and county, not
Thank
just
you.
the base. Mm-hmm.
And the second one is, doesn't the active duty member have to log into their government email to access AFPAS?
No, you do not need to use your government email to access AFPAS. All you need is their DoD ID number, remember, and their password. You can access AFPAS from any device. You can access it from your laptop, from your cell phone, from your tablet. So you don't need to have a government email address. And you can also even put in AFPAS. If you update your information in AFPAS, you can update your information with your government email address and with your personal address as well. You can have 2 addresses. You can have a primary and a secondary.
Great. I'm going to go to another one of the questions that were sent in ahead of time. I'm going to direct this at Chief Jameson and Mr. Hudson. You may also have something to say about this particular question. Is there anything specific and unique to overseas assignments with regard to preparing for an emergency?
Fantastic question, especially about overseas locations. And I think that a lot of that is it depends, especially on what your local threats and hazards are. So, whether it's you're in a typhoon area or you're in a heavy earthquake area, which, Japan just happens to have, a little bit of both of those. Or even the emergency preparedness signals from the emergency mass notification system that you would get. The 33 to 5 minute steady tone if it's a natural disaster, or in some areas, it depends on, how close you are to threats and hazards. Some locations, they may even issue you what's called a dependent mask, or maybe even or some other type of escape mask, just to make sure that the community is safe. So that happens. Usually the installation office of emergency management, along with logistics readiness squadrons out there, will be a part of issuing that out, at some right start, type of program or a base intro brief. To get everybody on the same page there. So those are a couple of the key things. And plus, part of that too is who we coordinate with. So again, as I mentioned before, disasters beginning and ending locally, right? Generally, if you're in a CONUS or, continental US type of, installation or the surrounding area, if you have a local government, who's responding to a disaster and the installation is related to that, in any way, either because, it's a wide geographic area or members on the installation are affected in some way, then that's usually executed through what's called mutual aid agreements or memorandums of agreement or memorandums of understanding, where the emergency operations center for the installation will stand up, and so will the locals as well. And then you can coordinate response activities in that way. That's all a part of a larger national response framework. So that's a part of it. But when you're overseas, that same thing may not happen. You may not have emergency operations centers stand up in that same way, but those relationships are still being built. So, and really it depends on, the responsibilities of the installation for that host nation, as well as relationships that have been built off of SOFA agreements or status of forces agreements, of how we get the word out, for members of the installation that may be impacted by a disaster. And also part of that too is if we need to even go to the extreme measures of non-combatant evacuation operations. So that is a very big, conversation that happens between the DoD and the Department of State to execute that if need be. So that's what I have in case there's any follow-up questions on that. But over to the next panelist.
Thank you, Chief. Yes, we always tell our military community to just be familiar with the disaster risks that's in your community or your region. And I know overseas, we still, just like with Turkey earthquakes, and we had some of the When we're looking at typhoons, I know PACAF have a lot of non-combatant evacuation operation events that may occur or some level of evacuation. And we, from our office, we work with Department of State and Defense Intelligence Agency because we have certain regions that have a lot of civil unrest where they're evacuating embassy personnel, family members from that region. So we always tell families to not only know what disaster or hazard event, all hazard event that may occur in your region, and be prepared. Have your as far as any kits that may be needed to support an immediate evacuation. I know there's many exercises and preparedness events that may occur because I know within the PACAF and some of our OCONUS locations, overseas locations, evacuations are huge, especially non-combatant evacuation operations. So make sure that you're practicing that with your family members. Making sure that you are aware of those items that may support your moving out of a country or an overseas location fairly quickly. Make sure you have your papers that are required that would be needed. And another thing we also look at is pets. A lot of folks don't think about evacuation of pets, but that is huge to us. I know we call them fur babies, but that is a family member as far as we're concerned. So making sure that they are identifying, as far as shots that may be needed to make sure they're able to process on an evacuation operations. So one of the things that from the OCONUS locations, our centers do, military and family readiness centers do provide a level of preparedness that will support an evacuation or an event that may occur in that location. So just keep that in mind. I know when you're looking at family members in some of the schools, they're working with school liaison officers to make sure that that they are aware that the school administrators are aware that you being a military family member, a military school age child, what is needed to get out of the country or to if you're affected by a significant event, because it may affect your being able to complete school or something like that, continue with school in the right mindset, because we always say that disaster events kind of affect our school age children a lot differently than when you're looking at adults, how they respond. And there may be some long lasting effects when a disaster may occur. So the level of preparedness is a little different. I mean, when we're looking at all hazard events, all of these are significant because they are life altering events. But the preparation piece, practicing it with family members, getting the education that's needed to be able to respond effectively to that and recover from it, but also making sure that the family member is aware of what your actions will be to respond to that event, or what the family actions would be to respond to it. Would probably help them be able to get through that a lot quicker when that significant event occurs.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson and Chief, for those very thorough answers. We do have another question in the chat, and it says, this may be for all of you. So obviously we need to understand and know our support resources for the families, but are there specifics that you may have that we can push to prepare our unit families? Basically, are there standout roadblocks or issues that seem to continuously pop up that you think we should pay close attention to? And I want to make sure we have the time to get in a few more questions before our break. So if you try to keep your answer to about 60 seconds or less.
I'll go first, real quick. Casualty, the paperwork. It's where airmen and guardians feel like the blue suiters, they don't want to take work home. So they don't tell the members and the spouses and the family members, hey, this is where my documents are. These are important documents. These are where they are. Or here's a hard copy before I take out off the door. They always go, hey, it's on my laptop, it's on my cell phone, or it's at work, but they don't necessarily know where that is. So having a hard copy seems to be an issue where the members don't know that. And then also the by name beneficiaries, they don't know that designated as a beneficiary for those entitlements, so they're not aware. Or like even that pad, they may not know that, hey, you're going to make the decision about what happens with the remains, or you're about to get 500,000, $500,000 is coming to you, and they're not aware of that, and all of a sudden it happens. So just knowing that type of thing, of where those copies are, and keeping that seems to be on our side. Over.
I'll jump in on this.
Go ahead, Chief.
But like open and frequent communication with what we call as a unit emergency preparedness coordinator, a UEPC. So that every unit that we have out there that has an installation office of emergency management has one of those, who are responsible for coordinating emergency preparedness activities, and communicating between the Office of Emergency Management and, of course, that unit, and whatever unique aspects of that, that they may have. So no matter where you are, they will tailor checklists and plans and information for that installation based on that location. So like just communicate with them often. And of course, we're always thrilled to have anybody that communicates with our office and says hey, we want to be a part of this because it is a whole of base effort. So yeah, just reach out to them and don't be afraid. Over.
For the Military and Family Readiness Center, we do have a readiness function or section within the center itself. And normally we have a readiness NCO that will provide certain levels of support. I know they do everything from deployment support to crisis support. When an event occurs, it's normally all hands on deck when we go into EFA, enhanced operations. So everyone is dedicating resources and support to support the community. But one of the things we would really appreciate is that keeping that contact information updated. I know one of the roadblocks that we may, we can get around it because we are able to go to other sources within units to get data that we need. But doing outreach operations, doing an EFA event, emergency family system event, if that contact information is not accurate, it may cause some level of delay. And Ms. Goodman may have some comments on this because I know there's a DEERS refresh piece that's in there that when you're going in updating information. But one of the first thing our case managers do is when they reaching out to provide support to the affected individuals that has communicated needs, all the time the contact information is not updated as needed. So it kind of delays us being able to get that information to them. So make sure that's accomplished. And then another piece is, I know we talked earlier about the individuals let's say on a remote tour, family member at stateside, on an unaccompanied tour, doing an out processing piece. The centers are military and family readiness centers are on military and family readiness on the FSS out processing sheet. Make sure that that information is updated so that we know that you're in the region, that family members are in the region. That occurs all the time. We have evacuations where families are in displaced locations, safe haven location. They may come to the community within one area, safe haven location, stay with mom, pop for a short period of time. Then they may go and want to go with sister, brother, or another family member. We need to make sure that we know where you're at, know your contact information is updated, and that will help our case managers make sure they get you the support you need.
Yes, I would agree with Mr. Hudson. Make sure your contact information is updated. Also, I do think that whoever put in the chat that maybe AFPAS need to be on the checklist. That way we can have the service member to, as a reminder, to communicate that with them, because this sharing of password is the exception to the rule, because this is based on the sponsor's information that's in the system. And we do have a DEERS update, which comes through our system once a month. So, and by this being based on the sponsor's information, the sharing of this password would be the exception to the rule, along with, like Mr. Angel said, the hard copy of because like Mr. Angel said, communication is the key between sponsors and spouses. And like I mentioned earlier, I have been a military spouse, and communication is the main key. And there's information that we need to get, and sometimes there are short turnaround deployments. And maybe if it was on the checklist, it would click as a reminder. I need to give my wife this information or my partner this information so that they can make sure that my information is updated even once I am deployed, because things change so often. Like Mr. Hudson says, one of the kids could decide to go live with grandmother, and we need to know this information, and we depend on spouses of deployed members to keep this information updated. So whoever put that in the chat, that was a very good thought, because it is in processing for service members now. So maybe if we can get it on the deployment checklist, it can click as a reminder for spouses to communicate this information, for sponsors to communicate this information to their spouses or partners or whatever, so that their information can continually be updated correctly.
Hey, one thing that we were working hard at in the pre-command courses that it kind of flows into the theme of communication, is you've heard everybody talk about communication, is at the unit level. There are opportunities or ways to maybe do a KSL roadshow where you invite spouses and family members, or like specifically spouses, let's say, for a unclass mission brief, right? A lot of times those family members have no clue what their significant others are doing, what the mission is, why they're doing it. They feel disconnected. And a lot of times just having that place where they can get, and a lot of wing commanders do this, group commanders, they bring in, their honorary group commander, honorary wing commander. They'll bring in key people from the community, and they'll do a mission brief, and they'll do a little road show. I think that's a great way for you all as KSLs to go back to your commanders and look at that and say, hey, maybe there's some creative ways where we can open the aperture a bit. If you're in classified, obviously you can't do that, but there's awesome opportunities, I think, that are yet explored. And maybe that could help tie them in a little bit closer to what you guys are doing in your unit. They can feel a little bit more empowered because they now know what their spouse is doing, feel connected a little bit more to the community that they're a part of. And then that could be an opening to them exploring a lot of these other things that have been discussed on the panel already. So just a quick thought as an opportunity at the wing or unit level.
No, that's a great point, Chaplain, and thank you so much. You kind of ushered us into our next questions. We've actually received several questions in the chat, as well as questions that were sent in ahead of time, kind of around this theme of what is the role of the KSLs in all of this, and how can the KSL best support? And on the line with us, we have Miss Denise Blount from the Air Force Personnel Center, who is the program manager for the Commander's Key Support Program. And so I think she's a good person to ask to come on to answer that when it comes to specifically what is the role of the KSL with all of this information and all of these resources that we've gotten here today. How can they really take this back so that they are adding value to the units they're assigned to their commanders, and to their families that they support?
Hi, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, excellent. So sorry about that. So I'm having issues getting my camera on. So as far as roles for key support liaisons, so in emergency situations, your role is going to vary, of course, by squadron, by your squadron's needs. So depending on the needs of the squadron and what the situation is, like I said, it's going to vary. Generally, a key support liaison role would be to provide support, education, information, and referral resources. Now, it is really imperative, like we all know, it is a commander's program, so it is really imperative that you meet with your commander, with your first sergeant, and kind of discuss what your roles and responsibilities are in your squadron. And like I said, that's going to vary wildly depending on the needs of your squadron, and of course depending on the situation at the time. So it's really imperative to have that open communication with your commander, first shirt, your key support team, to find out exactly what is expected.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bond. I appreciate that. This has been a wealth of information. The time has gone by super fast, but we're already up. Before we end our panel discussion for today, I want to give each of the panelists the opportunity to give final remarks or recent initiatives or lesser known resources that maybe we have not already spoken about today. However, you want to use your time for your final remarks. I'm going to ask that each panel member please take up to 60 seconds. And this time we're going to go in reverse, and we will start with you, Mr. Angel.
And go. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for being on with us, for being a part of this program, for allowing us to have time to speak with you tonight. Short and sweet. As we mentioned, know the documents, know where they are, know who the beneficiaries are by name, and bottom line, control the chaos. Don't wait for crisis mode. Preparation is key. Being on the front end, knowing what the actual intentions are of our airmen and guardians, while they're with us, and then when a crisis should come along, knowing again who to talk to, whether it's CKSP representative or other agencies, to include us here at APC, as well as knowing that I didn't mention, but the cars have a requirement within 60 days of a new commander coming online. They do have a requirement to brief those commanders on the casualty programs at their installations. Additionally, we go to the Wing Commanders course as part of the panel for casualty and mortuary, tag team in that. And then finally, we also do an APC Squadron Commanders course that happens here throughout the year that we also brief a lot of this information as well. Reiterate that. So again, thank you for what you do. Thank you for your support, your service, and for allowing us to be with you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Angel. Ms. Goodman?
Again, thank you all for inviting me. It was a wonderful forum. Just to answer one of the other questions that was in the group, in the chat area about giving the spouses a login of their own. That is an initiative that we are possibly working on, but remember, has to be a DoD initiative. AFPAS is just not, the PASS system is just not Air Force. This is the Air Force, it's the Navy, it's the Coast Guard, it's the Army. So by this being a DoD initiative, that we have to work with DoD and to get something like that to be worked out for spouses to have their own login. So this is always a topic of our discussions when we're at our control configuration boards. We call them CCB. It's always a topic of our discussion. Every 6 months, it's a topic where the spouses want to have their own login, which would be great because we do know that you guys do that they do most of the work, but this has to be passed. It's more than just just the Air Force that's involved. It has to be passed by DoD because this is a DoD program, a pass system. And again, thank you guys for having me here. And if there's any questions or anything that you need to reach out and ask me, please do so.
Thank you, Ms. Goodman. Mr. Hudson.
Yes. Again, I appreciate having an opportunity to talk with you. And we've worked with KSLs for many, many, many years within the Military and Family Readiness Center. We do appreciate the support that you provide us, the assistance. You're a critical part of the Military and Family Readiness Centers and our liaison to the communities. So again, I want to thank you for that. Just continue to be part of when we talk towards disaster preparedness and emergency family assistance support, continue to be a part of our educational opportunities. I know our centers do provide training and education to the communities. So continue for them to talk with you to show our capability, what we have to offer, and then be able to take that to your community and spread that information to our folks. And when I look at some of you that have been involved in some of these disasters, I know from our seat up here, we see the impact that these disasters have on our communities. And we know that even our service providers and our folks like you that are providing us a level of support, you're part of the population is affected by those events. So take care of yourself, take care of your families, and please continue to help us take care of your communities. Again, appreciate you much. Take care.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Colonel Worf?
Well, it's been great to be with you guys tonight. Thanks again, or good morning. Thanks again for the opportunity to contribute to this awesome panel. I've learned a lot just by your questions and your comments, and our colleagues on the panel as well. One of the things I would encourage you as you think about your role as a KSL, your primary role is to be ready yourself, but also just to keep in mind that from an integrated resiliency and a spiritual fitness perspective, you're a key pulse of the force. And I wanted to just leave this with you. Your job is supporting airmen and their families to ensure they thrive across the spectrum of resilience. And if you haven't gotten familiar with the spectrum of resilience infograph, I highly encourage you to go on to the resiliency.af.mil website and pull it up because it's going to give you 5 quick domains that you can start to begin to look at to think about how am I getting ready for myself? What about my family, my friends? What about our peer and social networks? What are support entities that are around me? And then also the clinical, medical kind of health systems. And so there's a really infographic that you can go and familiarize yourself with. I think it's a good snapshot to keep in your hip pocket when you think about your role as a key support liaison. But keep embodying community, connection, and care, and we'll see you on the next call. Thanks again. Bye.
Thank you so much, Chaplain, and thank you for letting us know about the resilience.af.mil resource. And last but not least, Chief Jameson.
All right. Yeah. So echoing what everyone else said, just a lot of thank yous. So after doing emergency management for a couple of decades, just a couple of things that I've learned, right? Number one is don't let that bad day be the first time you're shaking hands. Get out, network, and resource with the community. And you can do that through a number of ways. So September is National Preparedness Month. And so you're going to have emergency managers from all across the Air Force who are out there setting up, booths and tents and other type of outreach things, out there. So check that out and get some resources. You can actually go to the Office of Emergency Management. You can get coloring books, pens. You can get all kinds of things that have numbers on it, that communicate all the different resources that we even talked about today, whether it's AFPAS or Military One Source. All that's available through that. And then the other aspect of that as well is that somebody might, has asked me before, like, hey, emergency manager, so what do you do to stay prepared? So my wife is really good at this. So she's very organized. We're on our 17th biannual grid down day. What that means is that, we just shut down all the electricity in the house, all the water in the house, everything that, we have over here. We have an objective we need to complete that day. And we practice our preparedness skills. We use the kits that we have. We make sure that the batteries are still working and everything. We make sure the medications are up to date if we have medications in there or different types of resources. Make sure that, we have a way to get our animals food and water. So we do that like, in the winter and in the summer. So one thing I'd leave is just take your preparedness in your own hands, build those family resiliency things that you can, to keep that up for you and the family, because literally your life depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Jameson. And I did see a comment in the chat. Someone was wondering if you have a guide or if you can direct them to where they can get a guide for how you do your grid down day. I don't know if you have a quick response for that.
Yes, my guide is, her name is Lindsay Jameson. Yeah, but yeah, please, you can actually email me and I'll send you out about our grid down day stuff. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, but a part of it is just, making it fun for the family, getting everybody involved in preparedness. We have something that we call Mayhem Mondays. And so on Mayhem Mondays, my son will go through and he'll practice the phone numbers, for who to call when there's an emergency. We just keep it fun.
Great. Thank you so much, Chief. Man, this entire panel has been amazing. Can we please give a Zoom round of applause for our panel members? I want to say thank you again to all of you for the insights and resources that you've provided today. I also want to thank everyone who's dropped questions in the chat, who's dropped resources in the chat, who's dropped their experiences in the chat. You all are our 6th panel member, and you did not disappoint as well. Again, we're going to answer all of your questions. If we did not get to your question during today's panel, we will provide an answer on the AFPC Commander's Key Support Program page. You will receive an email notification when the recording from today's panel and the questions are posted. So as we prepare to bring today's engagement to a close, I want to once again say thank you to our panel members for educating us on the importance of updating our personal information for accountability and ensuring our beneficiaries are correct and our loved ones are taken care of, reminding us the importance of completing notifications and how to get resources from the military and family readiness centers in the case of an evacuation, how to create a family plan, and how to be mentally and spiritually prepared for a crisis. With that, I'm now going to turn it over to Lieutenant Colonel Catherine Roberts, Deputy Chief of the Airmen and Family Care Division, for closing remarks.
Thank you, Letitia, and thank you to all of our panelists. It is always great to hear from subject matter experts, and you provided a wealth of knowledge and insight tonight. I am a two-time graduated squadron commander and a military spouse, and I can tell you from personal experience that no matter where we are in our careers, our families and loved ones are always our top priority. The readiness of our airmen and guardians depends on the readiness of our families. We can never be too prepared for emergency or crisis situations. I appreciate all the organizations represented here today and those you saw on the resource slide for their role in ensuring emergency preparedness and crisis management. To our key support liaisons, thank you for what you do for our airmen and guardians and their families. Mission readiness is family readiness, and each of you play a vital role in supporting your commanders as they not only communicate that readiness message to the families assigned to their unit, but also ensure that the message is put into action every day. Thank you for your active participation in the chat. You've asked several questions about your role in emergencies and expectations of you. Please talk with your commanders about their expectations and find out how you can best help them. Thank you, Mrs. Alvin and Mr. Larry, for being with us here today. Your presence demonstrates the importance you place on this program and the value of the time we've spent together this evening. Finally, thank you all for taking part in this engagement. Our team at headquarters, as well as our partners at the Air Force Personnel Center, look forward to continuing to engage with you on topics that can aid you in your role as you support your unit. Please continue to provide us feedback on how we can make these engagements better and targeted to your needs.
Wow, just awesome. Thank you for the entire team, and we really appreciate you. And you know, when you start these sessions, you ask yourself, what constitutes success? Part of it was to be able to plan it, build it, and have the engagement. But more importantly, from the way that the panel members shared tips, the way that Lieutenant Colonel Creel orchestrated the session, the way that Colonel Roberts closed it out, the way that Ms. Alvin rolled in and shared thoughts. I mean, it's just been a great, great session with your Q&As, and more importantly, from Colonel Roberts' point in closing, give us your feedback, please. Help us to help you to be better. And I tell you, Chief Jameson, that was amazing with the thoughts you shared regarding how you and your family prepare for readiness. I think we all may take a special tip from that one, but thanks for everybody. Just a great, great job. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Colonel Roberts. Thank you, Mr. Larry. That concludes today's event. We'll stay on the line to note any additional questions. Please bookmark the AFPC Commander's Key Support Program webpage and be on the lookout for upcoming Key Support Program engagement events. Finally, we again want your feedback. A QR code is now showing on the screen. There should also be a link in the chat. Please answer the questions and provide us feedback on this session and what you would like to see in future engagement series events. Thank you again, and I hope to see you next time.